And also remember, if you were induced, chances are you will be distressing your baby. So after induction, they can't let you labor for 36 hours. It's so difficult because they are putting the baby under risk.
This is the Birth Agni podcast, the fire that brings us alive, that burns myths and opens a channel of authentic natural birth stories. This show debunks the many myths of the medicalized births, showcases the plethora of choices a pregnant couple can make to embark on their empowered birth journey. I'm Divya Kapoor, a certified birth and lactation counselor and an aspiring traditional birth attendant. Let's get the flames blazing high.
Cephalopelvic disproportion. What is it? You must have heard about somebody's story in and around you, if you're an Indian woman, that somebody went through a surgery because the baby was too big for the pelvis to fit through, or the pelvis was too small and baby got stuck despite laboring for 8-10 hours. I was allowed to labor for 10 hours, but the baby was stuck and I had to undergo a surgery. Internet is flooded today with reels from Indian women who had to undergo surgery because of cephalopelvic disproportion. तो फिर ये episode तो बनता है. Sample this content in a reel. I did everything I was told to do. Then why I had a C-section delivery? I prepared myself for natural birth, did all the stretches and exercises, stayed active till the last day of my pregnancy, worked 9 to 10 hours, and kept pushing myself before I was admitted. Did meditation while in labor, ate balanced meals. But sometimes, no matter what you do or plan for, things may not go as you imagined. I was heartbroken when the doctor said, emergency C-section karna padega. I thought my body failed me. But at the end, what matters is a healthy and safe baby. The doctor told this woman after 8 to 10 hours of labor that her pelvis is small for the baby and she has to undergo surgery. And what she has, the condition, it's called cephalopelvic disproportion. Many women in the comments repeated, same story, me too, I also had this. When I went through the comments, I was mind blown. And it was so heartbreaking because we'll go to the stats now after this. Cephalopelvic disproportion is a very rare situation. And most likely many of these women were lied to because they were not conforming to the time of the hospital. Their labor was not short enough. And hence, if the clock ticked late in the night or early in the morning or next day is a Sunday, most likely they went into surgery for those reasons, for convenience, rather than true cephalopelvic disproportion, and which is why we're going to discuss at length what this means and what it can also mean for Indian women who are going to the hospitals. What do the stats say? What does the American College of Gynecology say? ACOG. We will discuss all of that in this episode. Many of these women bought what the doctor told them because they did not understand what happened to them. Now, I do not need to repeat that birth preparation is very essential, not just to have a better outcome, but to be able to have an understanding of what you went through. It can prevent birth trauma, which stems from a feeling of gross helplessness at the turn of events in a process which is extremely self-directed. Many of these women feel cheated, and rightly so, but they shove this under the carpet for lack of better answers, for lack of better understanding, for lack of support in what they're feeling, because they do not have anything logical to support it. Now let's look at the stats for cephalopelvic disproportion. The actual rate, or the true rate of CPD across the world, where the baby's head is physically too large to pass through the pelvis, or the mother's pelvis is small or disproportionate, across the world, it's 1 to 3% of pregnancies. In India, there are no large-scale studies that are done reporting CPD as a primary reason for cesareans in such exact terms. So there is no study in India that has been done, but across the world it's just 1 to 3%. However, older studies and hospital audits in India often over-report CPD as a reason for cesarean, up to 15 to 20% in some hospital data sets. This is due to the misuse of the term or overdiagnosis to just justify surgery. In cases of, now the reasons could be many that you underwent surgery and not really CPD, what those reasons could be. Poor fetal positioning because you were not allowed movement, and sometimes certain positions can take longer for the baby to come out. The labor can be longer because of the position. It's not that you cannot have a normal birth, you need more support. Early admission and slow labor, inadequate labor support, movement, food, hunger, all those things are not taken care of. Fear in the atmosphere. There's so many other things that impacts the process in and itself. It's a highly emotional process with the physical aspect being taken care of the body. In the hospital, sometimes labor is time bound. So if you did not have your baby in 12 hours, okay, we're going to take you for a surgery, even if it's not real fetal issues, real CPD. In reality, that the baby was big or your pelvis was small. So poor fetal positioning, what does it mean? It can mean that you do not have an optimal position in which the labor is short, which is the head down. And please know that there could be various nuanced situations in this, meaning there could be various positions even in a head down baby when it is coming through. The way it engages in the pelvis speaks volumes about how your labor is going to be. So even if your baby was head down, what happens during labor is determined by how the baby navigates the pelvis. That doesn't mean that the baby is big or the pelvis is not appropriate. It means you need more support and time. And so many women undergo surgery because of this and not true CPD. Early admission, a labor that takes its own sweet time. I recommend a lot of women to stay home for as much as the early labor because it can go on for 2 days, 3 days. So if you go to the hospital early, you're going to be put on a time clock because your labor is taking its own sweet time. It's not failed labor. There is nothing called failed labor, yeah? Every labor is helping the baby be equipped for the life outside. So the best is to wait at home and go to the hospital when you can't bear it at all. Otherwise, you'll undergo surgery because you're under a time clock. Inadequate labor support, meaning you're not allowed movement, you do not have enough warm water support, you do not have the heat pads, you do not know how to work with natural pain relief measures. Sometimes a lot of interventions are introduced, which are also one of the reasons that a woman might have a very different labor and a labor that might take a lot of time. We'll get into that. But if the labor is not supported well, it might take some time, which again doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It means you need more support. Now, sometimes interventions happen, such as induction. So many women undergo induction at 36, 37, 38 weeks, 39 weeks for various reasons which may not be real. Meaning your water broke, you have an induction. You cross your due date, you have an induction. So all those are not legitimate reasons for you to undergo induction. Now, induction can lead to the failure of the labor process or the labor process stuck because the baby was never ready to be born. The baby decides when the labor needs to start, and if the labor has not started on its own, most likely there will be more complications in your labor and birth, in your ability to have a normal birth. Induction is not an excuse or is not the way to have a normal birth when your body has failed you. Induction is actually the culprit, which leads to more and more surgeries. So all these are reasons wherein a mother might have unnecessary cesarean and wrongly stated reason as CPD. Now, what should you know about your body to recognize whether you were given a fake CPD diagnosis? Remember, during labor, lack of movement can prevent a baby from descending. It needs gravity. Also remember that your baby rotates twice and is a whole human being. It needs to adjust to the size of the pelvis. It takes some time to observe the pelvis and then moves and rotates to come through the pelvis, and the baby might need some time to do so. So even if you're 10 centimeter dilated, it doesn't mean the baby has been able to come down enough for you to birth. That doesn't mean that there's something wrong. That means you just need more time. If the baby is doing well, if you're doing well, if there's no distress, Everything is okay. And also remember, if you were induced, chances are you will be distressing your baby. So after induction, they can't let you labor for 36 hours. It's so difficult because they are putting the baby under risk. Induction is a risk for the baby. It causes fetal distress. Remember, dilation is not the only parameter for labor completion. So if you were 10 centimeter dilated and the baby did not come down, that does not mean that the baby was stuck. It means the baby needed more time. It's independent of the baby being born. It's a part of the process. What are the other reasons that can pressurize you into an unnecessary surgery labeled as CPD? Let's go through them one by one. Going beyond your due date. Hospitals often recommend induction or surgery if the labor has not started by 40 or 41 weeks. Despite the WHO's guidelines allowing women to go to 42 weeks in a healthy pregnancy when there are no other signs of any complication. So here, there is no individualized care in India. Every woman that goes after 40 weeks, she's told, you're going to have an induction. We're going to try and do this. It's not individualized care. Same protocol for everyone. And so many women who did not need an induction get induced. And what happens if you're trying to force a baby to be born when they're not ready to be born? It's going to be a longer labor, or a labor that stalls because the baby is not ready. The baby doesn't want to do the work. The baby has not been prompted by its own body to be born. Often when women are told that you cannot go beyond 40 weeks, they are told that you're going to have a stillborn baby. The chances of a stillborn baby increases after 40 weeks, which is true. But how much does it increase? By a very, very small margin. Just about 0.7, 0.88%. I think it's not the exact number, but it's around this. And this fear should not be emphasized without individualized assessment. It's not that every baby that's post-date is post-mature. There is a difference between post-date babies and post-mature babies because your due date is an estimate. It's not a deadline. It's not a deadline at all. So your baby may actually not be post-date. Your baby may actually be on time. Now you're trying to bring a baby earlier. And so you have a surgery. And now the surgery is also bad for the baby. The baby did not get a good gut flora. The baby did not get exposed to the vaginal flora, and hence the good gut flora. What I meant was this. The baby also did not squeeze through the canal. And the heart, the lungs, did not get squeezed. And all the amniotic fluid did not come out very well. And many babies who have surgeries have difficulty breathing. And we often give women the reason, the baby will have difficulty breathing, so let's get the baby out by surgery. Nobody is telling you that after the surgery, the baby will have respiratory problems. Many babies do. Now, the other reason that you might undergo surgery labeled as CPD is suspected big baby. Now, big babies are often not a problem. The bones of the head of the baby are moldable. They slide over each other. So even if the head is big, the head is flexible. It can move. It can become a cone to be able to fit into the pelvis. And many babies come with a big caput. It's called a caput, like a big conical head that settles down in a couple of days. It's marvelous how the body functions. Now the head is moldable. The pelvis is also flexible. It's flexible, it can move, it can open from the sides, from the front, from the back. Now, if somebody tells you, basis an ultrasound, that your baby is big, so you cannot fit through the pelvis, without a trial of labor, you are being fooled with the big baby syndrome, which is an obstetric syndrome. It's not real, it doesn't exist. So you can listen to the episode, which we did with my teacher, Kale Good, who's no more, which is a big, big loss for me. We did an episode together. I'm so happy that I could have her on the podcast where she explains us the nuances of the big baby syndrome or the small baby syndrome. It's episode number 88. What's the next reason? 3. Slow or failed induction. Now, if it's a slow labor or you were induced and the induction failed, not your body, the induction did not work very well. Once the induction begins, there is often a ticking clock because it's a risky procedure. Nobody tells you in a plain, simple language that it is. So you're under a ticking clock. If labor does not progress within a certain hospital-defined timeline, cesarean is advised. Not because you did not dilate enough or the baby was stuck, because induction for a long time can compromise the baby. It's a very high-risk intervention, often handed out like a candy to pacify a woman determined to labor, even when she is not ready. An induction is likely to fail. It's billed, and then, as was always pre-decided by your provider, who wanted for you to undergo a surgery because you were so determined, they handed you a candy and you still went for the surgery. All this is a lie. You're framed in all of this. We speak about induction in detail in episode 83. So if you want to look that up. 88 for big baby and 83 for induction. There are many other episodes wherein we do discuss what's the difference between an induced labor and a spontaneous natural labor. They are very different, and you can feel how the induced labor can be very, very hard than a spontaneous natural labor. There's episode 106, Nikita's experience of labor pain with and without induction, Lavanya's unnecessary C-section because of an induction. Then we have the 83 where I speak at length about inductions. So those are those. Then what other reason could be there that you underwent a surgery labeled as CPD? Fetal distress. CTG interpretations. CTG is a machine that continuously monitors the heartbeat. It is not recommended to continuously monitor the heartbeat in labor because it doesn't improve the outcomes. Often, it can lead to false positives or overdiagnosis of distress without other signs. So continuous fetal monitoring is not advised. Sometimes when this is used, some assumption is made and an overdiagnosis is made, which is why a woman is stressed and she's asked to undergo an induction. And thereon that leads to surgery because we know induction leads to surgery. Now anybody who understands how the birth functions, how the process functions, would try and incorporate the mother's feeling in it. Would try and incorporate how the mother is feeling, what else is happening, what else can we do if the baby's heartbeat seems to be shaking. Maybe we can change the position, maybe we can calm down a mother. It could be because the mother is stressed. Now often in a medical system, none of these factors are taken into consideration. So efforts at remediation of a situation is hardly there. The only answer in a medical setup is surgery, which is so sad. There's so much more we can do to help a woman if there is fetal distress, which is not really an emergency at the moment, which is just an indication of something happening. What is happening is our job to figure out as experts, so we can help a mother. So if the baby is already distressed and if you're asked to undergo induction, please stop right there. The doctors knew it was a false alarm that they raised, because if they asked you to get induced because of a fetal distress, they're lying to you because induction causes further fetal distress. So it's a lie. That's where you stop. It's a lie. You can protect yourself right there. The fifth reason, meconium. Meconium in waters or the presence of meconium in an ultrasound. Now we again did discuss this, the meconium, the various use cases with meconium at length with Dr. Vijaya from Sanctum Birth Center in an episode, which is episode number, let me give you the number. The last episode number 128, is about meconium. Often babies can tolerate meconium and they do well and they can be born absolutely fine with meconium. Sometimes it's an issue, and all of that can be figured out at a time based on various parameters. The time when the baby passed poop, was it early, was it late, what else was happening? So many things to consider. Episode 128. You can have more details on it. This can be a fake reason for you to undergo surgery. Previous cesarean. Now a lot of the times, women who want to have a VBAC, that is vaginal birth after surgery, go to a hospital, and the hospital doesn't really support you, but they want to keep you happy, so they allow you to undergo labor in a time-bound fashion because they are so scared of a uterus rupturing. They lie to you, they let you labor for a few hours, and then say the baby is stuck because they are so scared they put you under the knife. Sometimes the reason is not enough pain. Number 7, not enough pain, or you're not in active labor. Women are often sometimes sent back home if they are not in active labor, which is a good thing, go back home. But then they can be called earlier than they were in active labor. They're called to come back to the hospital. And if the labor does not follow the hospital's timelines, surgery is recommended, even if there is no indication. What is the other reason? 8. Maternal age or IVF or a precious pregnancy, if we say. So if there are any reasons that the parents might want this birth, this baby to be safe dearly, that can be played against you. In the normal birth scenario, surgery might be pushed because it's easier and convenient for the doctor and for yourself. You might be allowed to go into labor for a few hours, again because it's to pacify you, and then you undergo a surgery. We've already spoken about the lack of labor and birth support, and one of the major reasons I think that parents agree to a lot of this is because of the lack of birth preparations. Many women enter labor unaware of how their body works, and they give consent under pressure. Lack of childbirth preparation is the preceding cause or the reason nobody is empowered to decide for themselves in the simplest of the matters in birth, which do not even seem risky by the logic. And then they do not have their support team, which is outside their hospital, which can help them with information that the hospital doesn't provide. And please note that one of the biggest reasons, which is the last one here, is the hospital protocols and timelines. So when I say hospital protocols and timelines, they are real reasons. These are business reasons for which you can undergo surgery. It's not your body failing you. But they have to quote a reason, and CPD is one of the easiest reasons that is doing the round. Earlier it was, so if you catch up with the birth fad and you hear the stories of the women, a few years ago, everybody was undergoing surgery because of the cord around the neck. Then everybody was undergoing surgery because of meconium. Now everybody is undergoing the surgery because of CPD. There is a wave of it. So know that the reasons are beyond this wave. It's a lie. Hospital shifts, they change. There are weekends, there are night shifts, somebody has to go on a leave. The staff is, under-resourced. All of these things play into your birth than you and your own real body really doing the function. Now, what's the problem with the CPD label in the Indian hospital medical system and the grooming around it which takes place? I was reading an article on the Apollo Hospital's website where they said that many women can have their labor stuck, and all the information that was given there about the stuck baby was absolutely not okay. It was not detailed enough for you to really understand anything. It was written in a way that you would buy into CPD when it's given to you as a reason. That's how grooming takes place in the hospitals, which is why childbirth classes in the hospitals are not a good idea. They're the worst thing ever. They're gonna advertise things that they want you to be complicit with. They want you to be complicit with the surgery, so they're gonna make sure, the surgery is okay. An induction is fine. All of this is bullshit. All of this is not helping you with your birth. Many Indian women are told your baby won't fit even before the labor begins. Now, when that happens, bases an ultrasound that, the baby is overweight, so the baby's head size is bigger. We could find that out in a growth scan, and so you cannot undergo labor and you have to have a surgery. Know that this is a lie. First of all, ultrasounds have a big margin of error. I had a client who was told numerous times that her baby's head is big. Her baby's head is big. Her baby is above 3.5 kgs. All the scans came out with this information. We worked together. She did not go to the hospital. She changed the hospital. She changed the doctors. Nobody gave her an assurance. Everybody was like, maybe a surgery. She was forced to take the sugar test again and again because most big babies are a problem when it's a problem because of gestational diabetes. Now, in that case, it's a real problem. But you can see what that means for you in the episode 83 with my teacher on the big baby and the gestational diabetes. But herein, Most women do not have this condition, and this client of mine did not have this condition. She had no symptoms, but she was made to undertake the test so that one of the numbers would indicate it, as if they were trying to bring or build evidence for her to undergo surgery. Anyway, we did classes together. She learned everything, and then she decided, I'm not going to go to the hospital. I'm going to labor at home. She labored much into the active stage. She was 8 centimeters dilated when she went to the hospital. The baby was born normally. The baby was 2.8 kgs, nowhere around the 3 mark. And her father, who was so scared of her taking her own decisions in labor and birth, he was very appalled at what she was doing. She was completely in distrust with what she was being told, was amazed at how wrong the scan can be. So if you're being told that because of a scan which is 100% accurate, you cannot undergo labor, this is a blatant lie. Everybody knows scans are mostly wrong, especially in terms of growth, figuring out the weight of the baby. Is CPD real? You might be curious, because now that I've told you, there might be so many reasons you undergo surgery labeled as CPD, but you're like, does CPD happen? For my teacher in 1500 births, I think she transferred 2 women for a stuck labor, and there was one with one of her assistants. The assistant was doing the birth, who, after giving the woman 4 days to labor, 4 days, into the 5th day, they decided that the baby is stuck, and she checked the pelvis. So there's a way that internal examination can be done and the pelvis can be checked. So she seemed to have a sort of pelvis which is difficult for the baby to navigate. Now, even with a particular sort of pelvis, some babies can navigate that. So it's not written in stone. That pelvis was android, and hence they had to transfer this mother for a surgery. So in 1500 births for my teacher, 2, and maybe a few along the line, 1 more mother had this. So when the physiology is supported, most women will have their babies. What's interesting is I was reading the guidelines of WHO and ACOG, American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. They both caution against overdiagnosing CPD. They emphasize allowing labor to progress naturally and ensuring proper fetal positioning and maternal movement during labor. They have their own protocols, ACOG has them, and the individual gynecological associations in India and other countries have them, that they have to do a thorough analysis before labeling a mother for CPD, but often it's just written as it is. There was another study where they said, what happens if the woman was diagnosed in one particular pregnancy that she had CPD? What will happen to her future pregnancies? Which is, wow, a fantastic question. I was like, yeah. But according to me, if the cephalopelvic disproportion is really diagnosed, if the true one is diagnosed, the future pregnancies and even the birth can be difficult, but we do not know. There's a rare chance that it may go absolutely fine, but still a higher chance that it not going as well, because the pelvis is a certain shape. And if it's about the big baby, then that's another thing. But according to the American College of Nurse Midwives, CPD occurs in 1 out of 250 pregnancies. If you've been diagnosed with CPD, it doesn't mean that you will have this problem in the future deliveries, which highly indicates to me that many of these CPD labels are overdiagnosed. According to a study published by the American Journal of Public Health, more than 65% of women who had been diagnosed with CPD in earlier pregnancies were able to deliver vaginally in subsequent pregnancies. Another study shows that 65% of women who received a diagnosis of cephalopelvic disproportion in an earlier pregnancy went on to deliver vaginally in subsequent pregnancies. So women, your body did not fail you. You can still try and have a normal birth the next time around. The stats are on your side. In fact, many of these women had larger babies on subsequent pregnancies than with the CPD baby. And that's also true in general in the midwifery world. It's said that many women, when they have more and more babies, the subsequent babies can be bigger in size. I think this has to do with lower stress in subsequent pregnancies. So, the bigger baby can be born normally, so probably the first diagnosis was wrong in itself. And maybe the baby was genuinely stuck for some reason other than CPD. Now, at this point, before we conclude this episode, I wanted to take you to a very important paper that I found, which was from the Thailand Obstetrics Department. And what did this paper say? It spoke about the overdiagnosis of CPD in many of the Thai hospitals, or I think they were talking about one Thai hospital. Let me take you through that. It's interesting, it's empowering, and it's going to be very, very helpful. Now, this paper is about adherence to the guidelines on CPD at Maharaj Nakorn Chiang Mai Hospital from Thailand. The objective is to determine the degree of adherence to guidelines on the diagnosis of cephalopelvic disproportion in Maharaja Nakorn Chiang Mai Hospital. So they've used the database of pregnant women who underwent cesarean section due to CPD between 2010 and 2012. It was reviewed. The degree of adherence to guidelines on the CPD diagnosis was recorded, and then we have the result. The results I'm going to read out to you before I go in detail about what else happened. It said that 464 pregnant women diagnosed as CPD were recruited. The adherence to guidelines either by the Thailand College of Gynecology or the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists criteria was 80.4%. Of 91 cases that had incomplete criteria to diagnose CPD, 25 cases had been suspected of fetal macrosomia, that is big baby, and CPD was diagnosed during the second phase of the birth. Unfortunately, 76% of these babies had birth weight less than 4,000 grams, 4 kgs, which means that this was not a big baby. So it says that a 4 kg baby is not a big baby, which for you should be a revelation, because in India they keep saying that a 3 kg baby is a big baby, which is a healthy baby. Who would want a 2? I mean, having a 3.2, 3.5 kgs baby is good, because the more the fat the baby has, the more the reserves the baby has, the better they can utilize them after birth, the less they are at risk of things happening to them after birth. So of the 465 pregnant women who were diagnosed with CPD, 91 cases did not adhere to the criteria at all. And 70% of them were first-time mothers. Of them, 27%, that means 25 of 91 cases, had surgery due to an indication of the baby being big. And this baby did not even weigh 4 kilos. The discussion happened that in the last 2 decades, the rising cesarean section rate at this hospital was under critical review. One of the main reasons of this escalation was cesarean section indicated by CPD. According to this study, nearly 20% of the cases diagnosed for CPD were not adhered to guidelines, which means many of them had unnecessary cesarean sections in these patients, which was consistent with the result from the previous study in Thailand. So while I could not get any study in India on the overdiagnosis of CPD, there is a clear-cut study in Thailand where it indicates that CPD can be overdiagnosed, and more than 20% of women in many of these cases underwent surgery which was unnecessary. So what's the crux of all this that we spoke about today? The crux for all of you is, if you are a pregnant woman, if you are planning a baby, start childbirth preparation. It is life-changing. It is life-changing because the decisions that you make after the fact is going to really help you make sense of what you're going to do. It's going to help you decide for yourself in whichever capacity you're ready to do so. And it's going to help you make sense of what happens after better. The answer to all of this is prep up yourself for the birth. It's not a medical event. It's a biological process. You should know how that works as much as you know how to poop, how to brush your teeth. It is a life process. It's very important for you to have the intrinsic knowledge about birth, and it was there in the communities earlier because women saw other women give birth. It was in the subconscious. They knew what was normal from not. Today, it's so isolated from all of us in the hospitals. that we only listen to horror stories of women and we internalize. That probably is my pelvis big enough. Already before you giving birth. Your mother gave birth before you. Your grandmother gave birth before you. None of them had CPD. There's something absolutely wrong with today's medical system. That all of this is happening, so buck up. The first prevention that you can do is amp up yourself. Make knowledge your armor. Be strong and bring your family in for education. All my classes, the partners are mandatory as much as is possible. And then you can bring your mother or mother-in-law, everybody who you want to team up with. Sister, whoever. So crucial for you to amp up. And today is the time for you to amp up in any stage of life because we hold responsibility to ourselves and nobody gives a damn. But remember that women before you gave birth and you have the lineage before you giving you immense power and trust in your body. You need to dust off the layer of fear with information. With that, remember you got the power. I'll leave you. Thank you.
There is a field beyond fear, where the body is empowered to take on labor and birth. To land there, it is crucial to take birth education. To enroll into our unique labor and birth preparation course, reach out to us at www.birthagni.com or scroll through all available prenatal and postnatal preparation classes. Thank you for listening, all in the spirit of birth, womanhood, and freedom. Remember, you got the power. This podcast is about physiological birth and does not offer or claim to provide medical knowledge or diagnosis.
Starting a podcast with poor recording tools in the market? It was painful until I found Zencastr. Its high-quality audio and video recording along with the option of a backup makes it super sturdy and a savior at times. With an easy-to-use dashboard and super convenient tools for advertising campaigns such as reels and videos, Zencastr is my comfort choice. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code BIRTHAGNI, BIRTHAGNI, and you will get 30% off of your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. You may also explore their free hobbyist plan to begin with.